But speaking of privileged kids, right? We watched Bel Air. We watched Bel Air. I watch every episode, and I'll tell you, I enjoyed the majority of that first season of Bel Air. I thought it was a really good show.
Yeah.
I thought that it took the premise of Fresh Prince and made it real. Because if we're being honest, Fresh Prince was a good show. It was a really good show, but it was so cookie cutter. Like they didn't hit the hard topics. You know what I'm saying? Like they skirted over them in a way that was very, very palatable to a lot of America. But I'll say that Bel Air more so speaks to Black America. It speaks to minorities. It speaks to people who really be going through that shit. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
So I fucking love. I loved it. I absolutely loved it, and I want to talk about the last episode, right? Because
I know you got something to say.
I do. I do. In the last episode, Will is confronted with the opportunity to finally meet his dad, and his dad shows up. And as a product of an only as a single parent upbringing, it really, really resonated with me in so many places. I shed a tear. I don't know if Sensation saw it, but my Sensation, I probably didn't let her see it because I don't let her see me like that, baby. You know what I'm saying? But no,
I felt it throughout the day.
conversation for another day. But I shed a tear. And here we go. So as I became a man, it brought me closer to my dad, okay? And my dad and I have developed like a really good relationship, and it really took off as I got into my early to mid-teen 20s, right? And it really just has gotten so much better into my early 30s. And why? Because you start to get a better understanding of how the man brain works as you become a man. It's not so much that you agree with what the man brain did, but you have an understanding, you have a solid understanding of what it is that he was doing and what he was trying to do, and skirting through the difficult things of trying to be a distant parent, raise a child while dealing with the fallout of ending a relationship with somebody that you were married to, somebody that you were seriously involved with. It's one thing if it's a one-night stand and then it's like, oh shit, we fucked up. But when you were actually married and then there's feelings involved, and we all know how we get when feelings are involved, we're not the most rational people. And I'm not taking a shot at my mom. I'm not taking a shot at my dad. I don't hold any of that against them to this day, right? Right now, as we sit here, I don't. I love them to death. I talk to them when I want to. But it's a healthy relationship. And I'm saying all that to say that it's difficult. And when you try to make it simple, you're missing it, okay? So for Will's dad shows up. They start having a conversation. You know what I'm saying? They're talking to each other. And Will is just like, when were you, like, at what point were you going to show up? Like, if I hadn't reached out, would you have showed up? And I asked the question, well, when's the right time to show up? So for those of you who may not have seen the show, Will's dad did 10 years in prison. He went when Will was 4, got out when he was 14. And then Will's now 17, and in those 3 years since he'd been out, he hadn't reached out to him. Well, Will's mom, Uncle Phil, Aunt Viv decided not to tell Will why his dad was away. So Will doesn't know that his dad was in prison. Will's dad didn't want to see him like that behind bars through that glass. So Will wasn't allowed to visit him. And then Will's mom and Will's dad didn't have the best relationship. His dad was he's paying out to be a hustler, you know what I'm saying? And maybe the mom provided a lot of and he said like the mom provided pressure once Uncle Phil started getting rich, like, hey, I'm not living like my sister. I need to keep up with my sister. So, and you got to make something shake. And him as a street guy, you know what I'm saying? He hit the block and did what he did. And when you take all of that, I'm sitting here like, well, bruh, how the hell do I support my son now? How do I go talk to him? Because there's this big block of why I haven't been there that we decided not to let you know. And then there's these other reasons why now it's so difficult for me to come to you and say, hey, I'm here. Well, where were you at? Well, your mama didn't want me to tell you I was in prison. I ain't been here. So, like, I don't want to just throw all the stuff on you because I don't want to throw off what you had going on. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so, like, what do you do? And we were talking about this earlier.
I think the more that you talk about it now, that like you're saying it again, it's especially as like a woman. I'm more so of yes, I will protect my child at all costs, but at a certain time when I know that that my son, daughter is like able to receive the information, I will tell them. I'm not going to hold it and like continue with the lie.
So when's that time? Because let me tell you.
No, but like I said, like when I know.
But
So if my knowing is wrong from what they're like acceptable to like receiving, that's my bad. But we don't have like a manual. We don't have a time script. Like it's whenever I think they're ready and mature enough, right?
How presumptuous is that as a parent to say that when your child is ready to receive something?
No, it sucks. It does. Like you really don't know. A child can be ready like at 6 years old and we don't know it. But like especially as a mother, you overthink things. You
Yeah,
overthink it and you're like, okay, when they're teenagers or when they act this way, like then they'll be okay to do it.
but here,
And sometimes mothers, because it's usually the mother that has a child over the man. Sometimes a mother doesn't get the cues that like their child is ready to hear that information.
I think what it really
Mhm.
is the parents don't want to have the hard conversation. The parents don't want to show where they may have messed up throughout that journey. They
Mhm.
don't want to show their imperfections, their flaws.
Mhm.
So they go, I'll explain to you when you're older, when you understand.
Oh, for sure.
And then you get old enough to understand,
Mhm.
but it's not a, hey, let's talk about this. An event will happen
Mhm.
that will then spark that conversation.
For sure.
And speaking as like, I'm speaking from like Will's point of view right here
Mhm.
because I fucking lived it. I lived it.
Mhm.
Um, you spend all this time with one parent
Mhm.
and you go, "Well, why the hell is my dad not here? Why is he not doing this stuff? Like, what am I doing wrong as a kid that my parent doesn't want to love me the same way that my other parent is loving me? Oh my God, why am I having this conversation on a podcast? But like, you're really sitting there like,
No, for sure.
what did I do wrong? I was just born.
Right. For
But
sure. For
but
sure.
as I've gotten
And
older,
that
hold on. You gotta let me cook.
Okay.
So as I've gotten older, I go, it wasn't me. It wasn't
Wasn't.
me.
It
It
wasn't.
was them. It was them because they could not work out their issues at the same time that I was mature enough to receive it. I had to wait until I brought it up or an issue arise in which to force the conversation. And now the conversation with the parent who raised you is so much easier than the one who didn't. Because you're playing with the devil, that you know, and the parents, the devils know they're more like angels, love them to death, right? It's like your first view of God if you're religious, right? Who brings you to God? Your parents, right? So when you're dealing with that, right, you understand that, hey, okay, this is what I know, and my mom never ever had a bad word to say about my dad. Never. Never, never, never. We can talk. I talk shit about both of my parents to my parents now because I'm fucking 30 and we can do that. But when I was in my formative years, there was never bad words. There was always cover up to make my dad look like the greatest man ever, right? And I rock with him. Should I act just like him, look like him too?
That, so I know.
Exactly. So, but with that, as you get older, you start to see the both of them for who they truly are.
Right.
And that's not a bad thing. You just get to rebuild these relationships in a better way because you didn't have the opportunity to like build
your own
unbiased relationship with your parent. Like, I look at you, you grew up with both your parents in your house,
right?
And not only were both of them there, but like both of them are there. Like, your parents like to be at home and do family stuff. You know what I mean? So you have your own thoughts on your dad. You have your own thoughts on your mom. And your mom and your dad don't shape your initial thoughts of the other because you witnessed it all.
Right.
Growing up.
Right. Like, I want to, can I?
Say whatever you want.
Okay. I want to bring it to light. Like, yes, my parents were together. They both had their own whatever with themselves, their own opinions. But even though they were together, they gave me a great life. That doesn't mean that I didn't have like some, I'm not even going to say I had all of them. 2%, 3% of like the questions that you do. Like, does my mom care? Does my dad care? Why are they hiding these things from me? Why are they not telling me like everything that actually happened? I mean, you've even been a part of like some things where I'm like, what? Like, my mom or dad did that? I didn't know that.
Also, I think your parents' situation is a story for another day because it's so long.
Oh, for sure.
And there's reasons why you have so many questions. So, like, for the viewers,
for sure,
her parents from El Salvador, they immigrated to America, and they did not immigrate together. And
I was the firstborn.
She's the firstborn in America. She had the older brother who was born in El Salvador and was he turned
two across in Mexico.
He turned two in Mexico, crossing the border. So because of all of that, there's a bunch of questions that haven't been answered.
I'm the first American born here. Okay.
So hopefully I can sit them down at the red
table. There's a lot that, like, as an American, as he has like said with his childhood that he's experienced, where I'm like, I don't know what that is because I wasn't raised that way. I was raised as a Salvadorian.
Yeah, you was raised watching Salvador Gigante.
Exactly. And having fucking arroz con leche.
Arroz con leche and casamiento. Like, she's like, it's casamiento. I'm like, no, it's red beans and rice.
But yes, that's another story for another day, right?
Yeah, so here's how I'm gonna close this out because it went in a different direction than I planned for it to go. The thing is, parents don't underestimate what your kids are able to consume, and understand that you can't, like what Drake said, I wasn't protecting the world from my kid, I was protecting the kid from my world, my kid from the world. Like, the world is gonna be there. And what I've learned in life is the sooner you jump off the porch, the easier it is to make it in the streets, right? Like, when you jump off that porch, yeah, it's one thing if you wait until you think you're ready, you're still never gonna be ready, right? And maybe you adjust quicker, but how much time did you waste on the porch scared to jump off? You know what I'm saying? So, like, parents, like, tell your kids stuff. Explain things to them, and if they don't understand it, they'll come back and ask questions. Right. And I think it's on the parent to explain things in a way that a kid can understand. more so than it is for the kid to be able to have the understanding to receive what you're given. Like, you are the teacher. If you are a teacher and your students don't understand what you're teaching them, then you're not a good teacher. So parents, be a better teacher. Be confident in yourself, but also be confident in your flaws and understand that, hey, I'm flawed. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to make your kids think you're perfect. They're still gonna love you because you fucking love them and you taught them life.
Right.
So instead of like trying to hide the nasty and the dark, no, just put it out there. And eventually, like the cream of the crop, it will rise to the top. Shout out to Randy Macho Man Savage. But